que la gente se muere por el Miss Universe. Like, people get so excited about this.
I mean, I remember being a little girl and wanting to be a beauty queen.
But for me, I went through a lot of, ups and downs about how I looked, like the image I had of myself.
And then literally found out the day after they left that we were not going to be able to send the rest of the crew.
Welcome to the Backstage con Telemundo podcast, where you will hear from all of our stars in front of and behind the camera on what it's like to work for the epicenter of the Hispanic media world and how we bring that juego and fuego to all screens. Ahora sí, vámonos backstage con Telemundo. Ever wondered what it takes to be crowned at the most prestigious beauty pageant in the world? Or better yet, what goes on behind the scenes to bring the show to life? The 72nd edition of Miss Universe comes live from El Salvador to Telemundo Universo on November 18th, celebrando las historias y culturas de más de 90 concursantes quienes competirán por la tan deseada corona. In this special episode, we're going backstage with two unstoppable women who have walked two different runways to the same show. Former Miss Universe 2020 and Hoy Día Co-Host Andrea Meza, and SVP of Operations and Business Strategy Ingrid Graham. Andrea, Ingrid, bienvenidas. Welcome to the show.
Gracias. Feliz de estar aquí. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am so excited that Miss Universe is about to start again.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
it's super exciting.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. Excited to be here and excited to be with our very own Miss Universe, Andrea Meza. Getting ready to, gear up and look to see who's going to be our next Miss Universe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Bueno, nosotros súper emocionados de tenerlas a las dos aquí para que nos cuenten sobre ese camino hacia la corona. Y con eso, quiero empezar con lo primero que todos queremos saber. Which contestant are you both cheering on at this edition of Miss Universe? Andrea, let's start with you.
Ay, Dios mío, poniéndome en aprietos desde ya.
Claro que sí.
Bueno, I have to say that I always like to see all of the contestants in person, like all together, so that I can have a better idea of who, has more of a chance of winning the competition. But I've met some of them, so I can say that, of course, I love Mexico and I am rooting for her. Me encanta Francia también. I like Colombia. This is tough.
It is tough.
Yes. Me encanta Estados Unidos. I think it's going to be complicated for her porque la última Miss Universo, la que va a entregar corona, es de Estados Unidos también. Pero me gusta mucho su perfil. Who else? Venezuela.
Of
Those
course.
are some of the ones that I've met and I really like. Oh, y Chile. Me encanta Chile.
Well, safe to say it's a tough competition out there.
Sí.
Absolutely. Ingrid, what about you?
So, look, I'm with Andrea. I like, I start with favorites, but I also think meeting them in person. And for me, the part of the pageant that's critical is the questions, right? To see exactly what they're made of. But going into it, very much like a World Cup, me pongo la camiseta de Colombia. And I think my 200%er honestly comes out, right? Colombian, American. So typically I go in, Colombia and which is Maria Camila. And interestingly enough, what I love about her is that she is the first Miss Colombia who is married and is a mom. So it also speaks to how much this event has developed, right? And sort of pushing the boundaries of what we thought of previously, what a Miss Universe or, the contestants were all about or their profiles to where women are today. And then obviously, with Noelia being Venezuelan American also, representing our community and, everything that we're trying to also do and sort of the strides that we're making in this country. So I think putting her at the level of Miss Universe would also be extremely valuable. But as I'm sure other favorites will come along, Dominican Republic, I have a very soft spot for them as well, always. And although, I'm from Colombia, there are many special moments that have taken place in that country for me. So I always, I root for her. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to meet them all and see them in person.
Sí.
Absolutely. Well, I think I speak on behalf of all Latinos when I say, as long as a Latina wins,
Yes.
it's a party.
It is. We start with those, and then it's like, you narrow them down. It's like, okay, whatever Latina's there, now I'm with her. Now I'm with her.
Exactly. Siempre nos unimos como buenos Latinos.
Absolutely.
And speaking of that crown, Andrea, as a former title holder, can you talk to us about the preparation process that these contestants go through when they're competing at the most prestigious beauty pageant in the world?
Yes, it is a long preparation for all of those contestants. Some of the contestants start preparing 5 years before, or some of them, like they have dreamt about winning Miss Universe since they were 5 years old. So like mentally, they've been preparing for this for years. Imagine that, like from 5 years old to 21, 25 years old when they finally get on the stage. For me, it was a little bit different. I started dreaming about this when I was already in college. I admire them, but not only them, but all the women that had a platform and they were able to speak publicly. For me, that was amazing because I was never able to do that. So I wanted to be that. And I found it through Miss Universe. So yeah, it's like years, let's say at least a couple of years of preparation. You obviously have to know like the traditions and customs about your country because you're going to be asked, you're representing your roots, right? You should be able to speak your mind and to speak about causes that are important, not only for your country, but for the whole world. Miss Universe represents a lot of different organizations like Smile Train, and they, support all these causes. So you should work with an organization, not exactly the ones that Miss Universe works with already, but something to help, in your country and to raise awareness. Like, it doesn't have to be something super big, but like the fact that you are involved and that you're giving something back to the community, it's very important. And how you handle yourself. That is one of the most important things because we were saying like we would like to see them in person, and that's because some of them have, like that energy that you immediately look at them. It's not really about the beauty or the body, or it's nothing about that, or the clothes. It's more about the energy and the presence they have and the way they handle themselves that you want to be around those women. And that's what Miss Universe wants. They want someone that people will be attracted to them and so that they can speak about important stuff. So you have to prepare for all of that. There's like public speaking classes, like all the mental stuff. For me, therapy was a very important part of it, to get to know myself in order to be able to speak in front of others.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that, because there's so many people that as soon as you hear the words beauty pageant, they think about the physical preparation side of things, right?
It is a part of it. Of course it is. But for me, it was more like to be healthy. Because, I mean, it obviously depends on every girl's story. But for me, I went through a lot of, ups and downs about how I looked, like the image I had of myself. So when I decided to go to Miss Universe, I wanted to do it in a healthy way. I didn't want to put myself in a position where like I was like punishing myself or thinking like, oh, I'm not skinny enough. I'm not like, I don't have the perfect measurements. I wanted to forget about all of that. Porque fue una parte de mi vida fue como yo era muy crítica hacia mí misma. And I also didn't believe that Miss Universe was about that. So I wanted to prove it not only to myself, but to the rest of the world. And I got a lot of critics. Like a lot of people were like, she doesn't have the body and all that. But I don't care because it's not really about what Miss Universe is about. And I showed it.
Love that. And let me ask you, what would you say was, in your experience, the most challenging part of that process?
To believe in myself, to believe that I could do it. Because
that's deep.
It's so hard because if you start thinking about like la preparación que tienen las otras chicas, like what they can offer to the brand, and you start doubting yourself, like that's very easy to do. And it's like you gotta be very focused on every step of the way. And I think that was the most complicated thing for me, to believe that I could walk on heels, to believe that I could speak in front of millions of people, to believe that I was able to share the way I see the world without having the fear of being criticized. Yeah. And speaking English, like that was also one of my worries.
Yeah. Well, listen, you conquered it. You did it. Yeah. Absolutely. Congratulations. And everything that's come after that.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. And we're going to dive into that. But before we get there, Ingrid, let's go to you now. Let's talk about that behind the scenes process. So you oversee all of the production operations of the show, from crew to logistics, hiring, and more. What does it take to execute a smooth simulcast live from El Salvador for all of us to enjoy?
A lot. That's
the short answer.
How much time do you have? No, look, first of all, it takes a team, right? Always, right? It takes a village. So we have a lot of individuals, within Telemundo, and even our outside vendors who have been doing these pageants, and also other projects for many years. We always come together, with the best and brightest in the particular fields, cameras, audio, everything that is involved, producers, writers. But it does take a lot, and it's a lot of coordination with Miss Universe, right? So just to very quickly explain what this entails is we license the pageant from the Miss Universe organization, which is the pageant itself. But we take it and we have the Spanish language adaptation, right? So we put our own seasoning, la salsita latina.
Nuestro sazón.
Exactamente. Entonces lo sazonamos con el talento, por ejemplo, Jackie y Danilo en este caso, Andrea, Carlos, Julia, que también va a estar participando como commentator. And then we bring it in a way where it is what our audience wants to see, right? The points, the Latinas that we're focusing on in the pageant. But it is a lot of coordination, a lot of logistics. We start probably, I would say, a good 6 to 7 months in advance in terms of putting everything together with a lot of individuals. A lot of the heavy lifting, again, working in conjunction with the Miss Universe organization is probably the last 2 months, and even right now. When it is international, it adds another layer of complexity that you can't even imagine right now, or a couple of things that I have to go and see if the truck has left Panama. We're having riots in Panama, so now we have to make sure that, is it going to get there on time? So a lot of logistics. And a lot of people traveling. We have about 68 members traveling, and this is, once again, just for the wraps that we create, but the pageant itself is produced by the Miss Universe organization. So it's definitely a lot of coordination.
And definitely a huge team effort.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, luckily we have the best in the business. So here's to another successful show.
Yes.
Andrea, you will be participating in Miss Universe this year as a correspondent on the ground. So I got to ask you, though, does it feel weird not being on that runway? I mean, how does it feel to be on the other side now?
I enjoy it more, I think, now. There's less pressure in a way. It's fun. It's very fun for me to look at all the contestants and see, they're so passionate about this. Están emocionadas. They're, super excited about everything that's happening. It's all new for them because no one can go to Miss Universe twice. Either you go and win or lose, whatever, but there's no coming back. So I get to come back in a different way, which I really enjoy, and see how hard they work for everything. It's beautiful. I like to just convivir con ellas. Me gusta estar mucho alrededor de ellas porque se emocionan de ver, o sea, no nada más a mí, pero muchas ex Miss Universo están presentes en la competencia y les puedes ver en los ojos la emoción de lo que quieren lograr, de que tienen ahí plasmado lo que ellas quieren lograr. Y muchas hacen preguntas, tienen dudas de lo que es ser Miss Universo, de cómo uno, después de ganar Miss Universo, lo utilizas para continuar tu carrera en lo que sea que quieras hacer. Porque para muchas es la meta y luego ya no saben qué viene después. Entonces les da mucha curiosidad y me gusta mucho poder compartir con ellas todo eso. Y obviamente pues crear contenido para Telemundo. Que la gente se muere por el Miss Universe. People get so excited about this. They want to get to know all the contestants. And I get to be the one that, brings them to our audience.
Right. And I think one of the coolest things about having you as a correspondent on the ground is the fact that you lived this experience. And not only are you able to tell these stories in a very authentic way, but I think such an invaluable part of having you here is also the fact that you get to guide these women through this journey. So I know you have a segment called De Reina Reina. Can you talk to us a little bit about that segment and other content segments that you'll be covering on the runway to Miss Universe?
Sure. De Reina Reina is my baby. I am so proud about that project. It's also a podcast, but it's some video. And it's basically me talking with the Latina contestants. So and whoever wants to come, right? But mostly Latinas that are closer to us. We talk about their lives. We talk about their preparation, about what they want to do. Why are they doing this? And then I have guests with us that are, either they were beauty queens or they are somehow related to all these contestants. And it's fun because usually when people interview all of these ladies, it's a very short interview. It's very basic, the basics, what do you want to win? Why are you proud of being, Colombian, Mexican? And that's pretty much it. And I like to get to know the person, not the beauty queen. Because I also, esos como los prototipos de las típicas reinas de belleza, that's boring for me. Like I want the real person, and that's why I'm so proud about this project, because they get to relax and they get to talk and just be themselves, and that way people can connect with them.
Love that. Love that. Ingrid, I also hear that we have a couple of specials leading up to the big event. Can you talk to us about those?
Yes. So look, the Miss Universe is almost like a 6-week event on the channel, right? It is one of our highest rated special event nights. Like Andrea said, I mean, I remember being a little girl and wanting to be a beauty queen. It's funny when she was saying that some of them, you know, when they're 5 years old, they wish. So it's part of who we are. It's ingrained to some degree in our culture, right? And having, you know, the little crown, even princesses and things like that. So it is important. We start, there are 3 phases basically. So we start what we say calentando motor 6 semanas antes with all of the interviews that Andrea mentioned that start to happen through Hoy Día En Casa con Telemundo and the daily shows, also on digital and social, huge presence there through our local affiliates. So that kicks off about 6 weeks. Then we have a very big presence the week of the event. So during rehearsals, during other 2 very important events, which are the preliminary and the costume competitions that actually take place 3 and 2 days before the main event. And there we have also coverage, interviews, you know, of the Latinas, but also the activity that's going on, special ceremonies. And it's almost like a wallpapering of Miss Universe the week leading into Saturday, you know, November 18. And then obviously the day of, you know, we have our huge event. We have a pre-show that starts 2 hours right leading into, at 6 o'clock leading into the main event, which is 8 o'clock our time. And then it's the 3-hour, you know, live coast to coast simulcast. So we're very proud. We definitely feel that we're bringing something that's very close to us at heart. There's a lot of passion, a lot of love. I think that our viewers and even we feel very proud, you know, of what we do. And every time this event comes around, we love all our events, but I feel that this one has a very special place in our heart. Just, you know, because it's who we are. It's just what we know and what we've grown up and in our homes, you know, and it's a great message also.
Absolutely.
Everyone gets so excited.
Yes.
Like, you see people betting, like, who's going to win?
Yeah.
Everyone here in Telemundo.
It's almost the equivalent of World Cup, right? It's like...
Well, I've always said, there's 2 events that are so important to Latinos. El primero es el Mundial, el segundo es Miss Universo.
Exacto. Sí.
Bueno, and I think in addition to that, one of the things I personally as a Latina appreciate so much about our coverage, as you were mentioning at the beginning of the podcast, is the fact that we really get to hyper-focus on las nuestras. Y como estaban diciendo ustedes, este certamen se ha convertido, más allá de una tradición en familia, se ha convertido en un punto de orgullo para nosotros los latinos. Y así que, nada, mucha suerte a todas nuestras concursantes latinas y vamos con todo.
Claro.
Y con eso, Andrea, I want to go back in time with this one. Talk to us about your journey to Miss Universe 2020.
Of course. I mean, I was living in Chihuahua, Mexico with all my family, a small city. I was studying software engineering when everything started, when I made the decision of participating in my first competition. At that point, my dream was Miss Universe, but I always thought that I was not good enough for that. So I tried in a different way, like smaller pageants. And then you see, like, I'll prepare, I'll learn through this pageant, and then I'll get to Miss Universe. So I went to another competition called Miss World, which is actually very complicated. I was in China for a month. I represented Mexico. I almost won. I got 2nd place. And at that point, I was like, I'm done with pageants. And I didn't want to try again. But then, like, I needed to do it. I needed to prove myself that I could do it. I'm very competitive, so I was like, I want to win. I want to do it. Like, I knew what were my weak points, so I focused on that. Y cuando gané Miss Universo, you know, like, all the opportunities came to me. Like, it was like a huge door that opened. And I could do anything with it, but I needed to know what I wanted to do. So at that point, I'm very proud of myself, I have to say, and because I thought, like, okay, I have this, and it's only going to last 7 months, because I knew I was going to be the one with the shortest reign, and I needed to do something with it. So I told my team, like, I want to be a TV host, and I want to do it with Telemundo. They've been so nice to me, and I want that. And they helped me. They were amazing. They helped me para que hablara con las personas adecuadas. They interviewed me. And that's how I think lives are changed. Not because things just, tú sabes, te caen del cielo, but because you work for it. Because you have the right vision. And that's why I like to tell all the contestants, like, it's great that you want to win this, because I also wanted to do it, but you got to know why.
Right.
To do something with it. So yeah, that was the moment. Like, I remember that moment when Mario Lopez said, Viva Mexico, and I knew at that moment that everything was going to be different from then. And it was like, next day I was living in New York City. How crazy is that?
Yeah. Well, clearly all the hard work paid off. But I got to ask you, I saw a TED Talk you hosted about a year ago.
Yeah.
Where you talked about how you were able to conquer the universe with this title. And one of the things you said that really stood out to me was that one of your biggest fears has always been el que dirán, or what people think about you. Would you say that winning Miss Universe and now solidifying your career as an entertainment host with us has changed this fear in any regard?
It definitely has helped. I mean, I would not be here if I cared about what people say that much. I'm human. So sometimes it does hurt when I read a comment that I shouldn't be reading. Para empezar, I shouldn't be reading all those comments on social media, but we do it. And sometimes it hurts, but now, like, I know who I am and I trust myself. And that's the difference. That I think when some comments hurt is because I know a part of it might be true. And that's why, like, I'm being too critical to myself. And that's why it hurts. But I started differentiating when it's true and when it's just someone that is just like pouring all their hate on social media or whatever, like even in a conversation. Y justamente por eso el trabajo de aprender a conocerme me ayudó tanto y de tener esa seguridad de pararme y con confianza decir lo que pienso. Pero ha sido un trabajo de mucho, como te decía, de coaching, de terapia, de sentarme a hablar conmigo misma so that wouldn't stop me.
And thank you for so openly admitting that with so much authenticity, because there's so many women out there that look up to women like you who are just thriving in confidence. The last thing we see is fear. And Ingrid, let's go to you now. Talk to us about your journey. How did you end up in the entertainment industry overseeing production operations for Miss Universe?
A dream come true. So look, my life actually did not start in entertainment. Originally New Yorker, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a foreign ambassador. So it was politics, yes, completely different. And weather, New York, and family moving around landed me in Miami. And I honestly started in the industry because I needed a job. And what helped me was being bilingual, because at the time, a lot of the U.S. Media companies were starting to explore Latin America. So I started in the media world with Discovery Latin America and basically, launching some of their channels in Latin America. And one of my entry points was, like I said, being able to speak Spanish and English fluently, but starting in production, literally learning as I went along. And I had, the individual that hired me, who until today is a mentor, taught me the ropes, but I also taught myself. And I think going back to Andrea's point is, I had to stay very long days, weekends, nights, putting my own time, right, to learn things that others, that were also coming in knew already from school or from experience, but it was that hunger. It was that, no. And I started to fall in love with it, which was the other thing. I thought, let me just do this as a temp job and I'm going to get into what I want to do. But Miami's not the place for for that. But outside of that, I fell in love with all of this, with media. And I started in production management. So I did that for a long time at Discovery, then hopped over to Disney. Disney Latin America was launching. So, I've always been very fortunate to be poached. So, and again, I think it's back to you focus, you do your job, you do it well, you give the best you can, and then that speaks for yourself, right? I've never been one to be thinking about what's my next, step or how can I get promoted? No, I'm doing my job and I'm doing the best I can, and I'm finding places where I can continue to add value, which I think is a critical point for growth. And naturally, the opportunities have come along. So just, fast forward, I through production management, ended up in operations, which is really where I've gone into very different roles, traffic, media planning, commercial operations, working very closely with ad sales, the business side also. So doing a little bit of business affairs. It's like a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But here I go, interestingly enough, coming over to NBC and starting in the operations world where, I was once again sort of poached and leveraged because of my production management experience to lead the entertainment, production management unit. Something that I've been very proud, excited, thrilled. It's given me new opportunities in terms of learning other things like live television, the award shows, things like Miss Universe. So I've been able to challenge myself, to expand myself, to build an incredible team that we have today in place that helps me, talking about teamwork, bring a lot of these things to fruition. So it's been a lot of hard work, but just sort of focusing, putting in the time, being prepared, and here I am.
Absolutely. Wow. And let me ask you, what about the entertainment industry made you fall in love?
Being able to provide that message, right? Whatever content we're working on. I mean, knowing that what I'm doing is contributing to what the world is taking in, is consuming, the awareness, either through entertainment, comedy, news, but we are there to provide them that avenue, right? And all of this information that's being consumed. So it's powerful. Just very proud of what I can bring, to our audiences.
Love that. So now fast forward with more than 20 years of experience under your belt, having worked this show 3 times before, what would you say is the most memorable story you have of working the show ever?
So listen, for this show, the first one that comes to mind is the era of COVID. And the show that we did in Israel, which was extremely challenging because we were in a period of time, it was December 2021, if I'm not mistaken, actually right around this time. And, things were changing literally by the hour, by the minute in terms of COVID protocols for the U.S., for Israel, the travel, that we needed to go through, the paperwork. And we typically, about 60, 70 individuals is the crew that we travel with or that we take along. And in this particular case, we sent our first, individuals ahead, which were about maybe 10 or 12 people. And then literally found out the day after they left that we were not going to be able to send the rest of the crew because of the vaccines, because there were now, differences in terms of, the days and the windows and things like that. And we literally spent Thanksgiving Day, and this is where, our resilience and our Telemundo team and my partners that I always say, it takes a village, but like legal, finance, labor, HR, on the phone as our families were having their Thanksgiving dinners, trying to work through these things, trying to figure out solutions, working with the team that was already in Israel, which now was working around the clock pretty much because they were our only eyes and ears, there. And we pulled it off. We did it, And look, I get goosebumps on that one because it was just like, sitting the day after the show was done and saying, wow, we're amazing and we do so much with so little, honestly. And I think that is part of what also, this Latino spirit, this resilience that we have, porque somos la gran parte latinos detrás y enfrente de la cámara. Entonces, we don't give up easily. We make it happen. And that was definitely, when you asked me that question, is immediately Israel. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that because I've always said one of the things I personally love about working here is the fact that we are sí se puede people. Y como buenos latinos, siempre nos unimos para enfrentar cualquier desafío que se nos viene por delante y siempre de alguna manera, con la ayuda de un cafecito, por supuesto, pero de alguna manera siempre logramos vencer esos obstáculos y esa es esa esencia latina, como decías tú, lo que nos hace aquí juntos imparables.
Sí, así es.
Y así con eso, I want to wrap with my last question to both of you. Now, clearly, you both are women who have changed the game in your respective areas. But what would you say is your best piece of advice to all of the women out there who are consistently battling against society's unique and many times unattainable standard of what a woman should be? Andrea?
That's a tough question. Yo creo que yo les diría que, o sea, que confíen en sí mismas, que todos somos humanos, todos nos equivocamos, todos tenemos días difíciles, que lo que uno pinta allá afuera no es la realidad al 100%, que esta vida está llena de altos y bajos, así que no sientan esa presión de que tienen que verse siempre o tienen que ser siempre la mejor, siempre la más fregona, porque eso no es una realidad. O sea, hay días en los que uno se va a sentir lo más abajo, pero al día siguiente te levantas y sigues y la vida mejora. Que siempre tengan una meta y que siempre estén preparadas. Yo creo que ese es el consejo que yo les daría a cada una de ellas, y que sí se puede. Lentamente, y como dijo Ingrid, creo que es algo muy bonito el equipo, y no nada más en el equipo de trabajo, sino tu familia también es un equipo, y el apoyarte de ellos, el saber que ellos tienen tu espalda y que de la mano puedes llegar muy lejos junto con ellos, eso es algo bien importante. Para mí ellos fueron una parte crítica de todo lo que he logrado, de todo lo que he aprendido, de la persona que soy hoy en día. Y que ellos, y si no tienen a lo mejor una familia unida, sus amigos también son su familia. Siempre hay alguien que te va a dar la mano, que te va a echar la mano y que te va a ayudar a seguir adelante.
Totalmente de acuerdo. Ingrid?
Yeah, Ashley, you mentioned unattainable standards, right? That society imposes on us. And I say, screw that, right? Like, you know what? You set your own standards.
Exacto.
You set your own standards, but focus on what it is that you want to achieve, and then you plow through. Mm-hmm. You know, you go, you crush it, you break those glass ceilings. And it's interesting because sometimes it's like, oh, you know, as women leaders and, you know, stoppable. I'll tell you one thing that, you know, I was asked once as a woman leader. I said, you know what? I'm a leader that happens to be a woman.
Yeah.
So that constant, like, you know, comparison, whether it's female, male, or even, you know, within your own peers, no, but it takes a lot of the mental sort of also, you know, thinking inside and making sure that you're good and you know what you want. And for me, another key component is making sure that I remove as much as I can and within my powers, any negativity in my life, right? Because that's not helpful. That's not healthy, right? Toxic environments or toxic, and sometimes, honestly, you can see yourself kind of diving and going into that, you know, whether it's the gossip or the this or that, and it's like, whoa, no. And I check myself. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, this is not healthy for me. Why am I doing it? I don't have to. Mm-hmm. Let's remove it. Let's keep focus. And being a good human being, just being, I wake up every morning and I say, you know, I want to do good. And doing good, you can do it in so many different ways. At home, obviously, my priority. But just being a good person and helping others that need help and you know, collaborating, you know, as Andrea says. So where there's a will, there's a way. Sí se puede. Sí se puede, sí se puede. Cada una de nosotras tenemos una historia de cómo se logran las cosas, y it's hard work. It's not given, at least clearly not for Andrea, and I can tell you not for me. But it pays off. It pays
Very powerful. I love that. And, you know, on that vein, I think another thing I would add to what you both just said is the importance of giving ourselves grace. Mm-hmm. I feel that we as women, that's always a work in progress for us. We don't give ourselves enough grace. And, you know, I think never has there been a time like today when we can be unstoppable at any stage of our lives. And the reason I say that is because one of the things I find so cool about this new edition of Miss Universe is the fact that we will be seeing a much more inclusive competition.
Yeah.
Donde por primera vez en la historia del certamen vamos a ver a concursantes, dos concursantes latinas, como decías, que son mamás y esposas, lo cual para mí es bonito ver eso, ¿sabes? Sí. Porque siento yo que es una celebración de la mujer en su totalidad. Uh-huh. Y un testamento al hecho de que simplemente porque una mujer empiece una nueva etapa en su vida, no significa el fin de sus sueños.
Correcto.
So that's the TED Talk of the day. Drop the standard. And with that, hemos llegado al momento del claquetazo. Edición Camino a la Corona. Are you ready for this? No. This is the fun part of the show. Bueno, les cuento un poco, chicas. El claquetazo es un juego súper divertido donde les vamos a dar a cada una de ustedes 15 segundos para que nos den 4 respuestas dentro de una categoría sorpresa.
Ay, Dios mío.
Here's the catch, though. You can't say or any pause, filler word of the sort. If you do, you'll give a pass to the next person, And the winner is going home with a Backstage con Telemundo souvenir and, of course, eternal bragging rights on the show.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds like a game plan?
Okay.
All right. So you'll hear me cue time in, and then you'll hear the buzzer when time's out.
Can I use
All
my
right?
phone? No? No
No,
phone?
I think would be considered cheating in this one. All right, Ingrid, you're up first. Are you ready, Ingrid?
No. Dale.
Sí se puede. Alrighty. So, Ingrid, your category is name us the last 4 countries to win Miss Universe. Time starts now.
USA, India, Mexico, South Africa.
That is good! Nice. Muy bien.
After you, I was like, oh my God, who was before Andrea?
You studied that, didn't
Muy
you?
bien.
All right, Andrea, you're up next. Ready?
Sí.
Okay. Name us the last 4 Miss Universe host cities or nations. Time starts now.
Okay, New Orleans.
You said
Ay, no lo puedo creer.
Ya estaban todas.
Don't worry, you have one more pass.
Sí.
All right, Ingrid, back to you now. Name us 4 Latin American or Hispanic countries that have won Miss Universe. Time starts now.
Venezuela, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Mexico.
That is correct. You're good at this.
Muy bien.
I studied too.
All right, Andrea, this is for your comeback.
Okay.
Okay. Name us the top 4 countries with the most wins in Miss Universe. Time starts now.
Estados Unidos, Venezuela, Colombia,
Not Colombia.
Filipinas.
Yes. One more. You said USA, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and Philippines.
Ah, Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Yo pensé Puerto Rico
Sí.
o México.
Juraba que Colombia estaba ahí.
No, ojalá.
Bueno,
Bueno,
I
ya
think
me
we have,
ganó Ingrid. Bueno, pero...
we have a winner. Ingrid, congratulations on being our winner of El Claquetazo edición Camino a la Corona.
Muy
How does it feel to be a
bien.
contestant?
I feel so proud. Is it my speech time? I'm so excited to be representing Claquetazo.
Andrea, Ingrid, muchas gracias. Thank you both so much for being with us
Thank
here
you,
today.
Ashley. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to spend time with Andrea as well. And as we gear up to be together in El Salvador.
Sí, igualmente,
Yes.
Ingrid, un placer. Gracias por la invitación. It was so much fun. Dejé en mal a las Miss Universo.
No,
mentira. No. Ingrid está en producción, obviamente ella sabe todo.
Claro.
Obviamente, y es colombiana. Es colombiana. O sea, los colombianos aman Miss Universo.
Acuérdate,
¿verdad?
cuando tenía 5 años yo me veía
Sí.
ahí en esa pantalla.
Ella se le sabía todo por eso.
Thank you so much.
No, of course.
Thank
Y
you,
bueno,
thank
para
you.
todos nuestros oyentes, don't forget to tune in to our live simulcast of Miss Universe coming to Telemundo Universo November 18th, starting with the pre-show and leading up to the big event at 8 p.m. Eastern. Hasta la próxima.